Yeah, so happy to be back. I think this is my third China Connect, if memory serves me correctly. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to do my creds in like 30 seconds. So We're Social is a agency network of 11 offices. I joined We're Social in 2015, and I now manage 3 of those 11 offices. So Shanghai, where the biggest clients are Beats and a local brand called Chando. Who knows Chando? You guys are real China experts if you know Chando. But now they're huge, like this skincare brand in a local skincare brand in China. We just signed with them. In Beijing, we have a bank called Minsheng, and we have OFO, which I guess you guys see in Paris these days as well. Yeah. We're also in the process of ramping up our Hong Kong office. So currently we have a giant Chinese brand there, Vivo, and we also have some other Hong Kong-based regional brands there, such as the GMAT. So today I'm going to talk about something very straightforward. I simply call it how to gain market share in China. So this is from our experiences of working with different brands trying to grow their presence and grow their sales in China. I get asked this a lot. It's like, well, you know, if I want to get into the Chinese market or if I'm already in there, how do I actually get more revenue out of it? So there is a pattern. This is a very B2C oriented presentation. So forgive me if you're here looking for more of a B2B approach. This is not going to be it today. All right. So first up, if you look at this image, I'm going to just have you like take three seconds to guess which brand I'm going to talk about. And then I'll just give you the answer. It's Guess. All right, so for this brand, it's interesting because they have a very strong heritage in the US. And so I grew up in the US, and the way I understood the brand is that it's always associated with these very sexy, iconic supermodels. But in China, that never quite carried over. The Chinese perception of what sexy is different from the American perception, first of all. So by just bringing in imagery like this, it means much less to the Chinese consumer. So they had problems for a real long time until they signed with us. And so I'm proud to say that this year for Singles Day, please tell me you know what Singles Day is. Raise your hand if you know what Singles Day is. All right, great. Okay, so for Singles Day, we were able to bring them from obscurity, which was like, you know, very flat sales, to number 48 in women's fashion in terms of sales revenue. And this is not just us saying it. This is published in the Chinese advertising media from multiple sources. So we know that it's pretty trustworthy. So how is this done? I want to show you the approach that we took with them this year. So this is, I'm not giving away exact numbers because that would be a violation of our NDA, but I can show you at least the patterns of how we spent money with them. So there was a wave in May, followed by 3 more waves in September, October, and November leading up to Singles Day. All right, so this is in terms of their digital spend. That first wave in May was a continuation of their global collaboration with this fine gentleman. Do you know who he is? It's ASAP Rocky, right? So one of the hottest hip hop stars of last year and this year, and just so it was actually really by luck because ASAP Rocky grew up with Guess. And so it wasn't that Guess had to pay him a lot of money, but it was more like, you know, he was happy to work with the brand anyway. And so there was a whole line of clothing that we launched with ASAP Rocky, and then that had to be then educated to the Chinese consumer. So for the US market, it was actually much easier for Guess because he is very popular there. But in China, we didn't have to just talk about the line of clothing. But we also had to talk about exactly who A$AP Rocky was and why this was such a cool collaboration. All right, moving on into the next wave, which didn't happen until September, and that is with Zhang Bichen. So this is a Chinese pop star, and with her, it wasn't really just about a line of clothing. It was really just about her representing the Guess lifestyle and also the Chinese version of sexiness that she represents. So with her, it's an ongoing relationship that was launched then, and then it actually is still carrying on today. After that, in October, we needed to crank up the volume a little bit. We needed to get some sales so that customers are used to buying from guests in preparation for a repeat purchase on Singles Day. So how that was done was with one of the hottest celebrities in China today, Dili Reba. And for her, it was a very straightforward approach. It was working with a magazine, having her do an interview, but she's really just wearing one outfit. And what we want to do is get everybody to want to wear that same outfit, buy that same outfit, so that they are in the mindset of being a guest customer, and then when Singles Day comes along, then they can buy other items. So this is the brief interview that she gave. I probably won't show the whole thing.
很美丽。
Right. So she's trying to get it so that you think, hey, you know, I want to have that exact look. And finally, for the big finish off, right before Singles Day, Tmall had offered guests this opportunity to be part of the Tmall collection. So this is like a fashion show featuring different brands. And guests chose Jiro Wang, a Chinese pop, he's actually Taiwanese pop singer, to be kind of their spokesperson for that show. And so this was live streamed on Tmall and also some other platforms, and this is what it looked like.
Yeah. 很久很久以前的秘密，我和你相约在这里，说好约定3月谈话题，不见不散最美的诗句，融合即时传说寻找你，那誓言回荡在耳际，依然清晰，绝对不分离，别忘记我还在等你，是你。
All right. So basically, if you look at the nature of these campaigns, I categorize them into two simple categories, either a branding campaign or a promotional campaign, right? So A$AP Rocky, Zhang Bichen, those are more branding campaigns. You have a very product-driven Dili Reba campaign pushing just that one outfit. And then the fashion show with Jiro Wang was another branding campaign. So keep that in mind because this is going to come back later as we sort of turn this into a framework for all you guys who are operating brands in China. The next image I will show you, again, it's a guessing game. What brand is this and who is that? Anyway, if you have the answer, keep it to yourself, I will tell you. So the brand is Michael Kors. This lady is Yang Mi, probably one of the top celebrities in China today. And so, yes, she's been working with Michael Kors for a while now. And as a part of that, we ran campaigns to make sure that this relationship is not only noticed by the public, but also amplified. So what we did accomplish for Singles Day, and this is a collection of different types of impressions. You guys can ask me about the details offline if you want. But essentially, right before Singles Day, we were able to push out 500 million social impressions. So only about a quarter of that was actually paid media. And the rest of it was actually through much more engaging types of impressions, such as short videos. And in order to do that, this was the spending pattern. So again, there was a small burst in July, followed by September, October, November. So the small burst in July was actually not so much a campaign, but a structural upgrade, which is their foray into the WeChat mini app. And what they did was that they took the WeChat mini app and then turned it into an extension of their social CRM program. So your Michael Kors card now lives in this mini app. One of the first brands to actually use the mini app feature, and that made an initial splash in the marketing industry as a best practice. And then came the preparation for Singles Day. So first, there was an announcement for Yang Mi becoming global spokesperson for the brand. And in association with that launch, not only we worked with Yang Mi to promote this concept, but then the concept and her looks, but then we also worked with multiple Chinese KOLs to take over their accounts so that basically many of these, what looked like normal articles that they published on WeChat turned into takeovers of the KOLs wearing the different pieces of Michael Kors clothing and using their bags. So then came a customer acquisition campaign. So this is similar to what Guess was doing in trying to get people to become Michael Kors customers in October in preparation for Singles Day in November. So we launched a relatively affordable product for them in October, which is the Michael Kors Access. The Access is a smartwatch that comes in different fashionable skins. And so the campaign that we designed for them was 24 hours with the Access. And basically, it involved 24 KOLs doing something different each hour of the day with their Access watch. To amplify that, we took a multi-channel approach on mobile and worked with some expected apps, but then some are probably less expected. So for instance, we actually worked with Ctrip to promote, what you can do with the Access if you're on a trip. Finally came the big crescendo right before Singles Day. So this is the second part of the walk campaign where Michael Kors himself actually came to Shanghai, and there was a huge celebrity-driven party involving not just Michael Kors and Yang Mi, but also several other celebrities. And so how we thought to make best use of that was to become the only luxury brand on a platform that has no luxury brands. And what was that? That was Douyin. So Douyin had come online only this year as a new social video platform with, I think right now they're claiming 40 million MAU, but we could fact check that later. So Douyin, having just come online, not all the brands have quite grasped onto it yet. So we were the first one to say, hey, look, we're gonna put Yang Mi on your platform. We're gonna work with your KOLs to follow this walk concept, which is essentially turning the city into your own runway. And in return, you're gonna give us basically your entire set of resources on your platform because we're the first luxury brand to give you this much attention and this many resources. So that became seen as like, wow, a new best practice in Chinese marketing because it's courageously taking on a new platform, a up-and-coming platform, and then investing heavily on it to become the loudest thing on that platform versus trying to fight your way through all the other popular platforms such as WeChat and Weibo where you face competition from every single brand in China, essentially. And finally, kind of a smaller thing, which is for the actual event, we also worked with additional influencers on Yizhibo, the live streaming platform. And so instead of just having an official live stream on one channel, we had it running on multiple different channels that were operated by the KOLs themselves. So if you look at the pattern here, then it started with a more promotional campaign in launching the CRM mini app because mini apps were still seen as a new thing at that time. And then came the announcement of Yang Mi being the global spokeswoman. And then came the promotional campaign of selling the Access watch. Then the big Douyin and Yizhibo-driven celebrity event in the second part of the walk. So again, I'll reshare this in a later slide, but this is just to show you the pattern of what Michael Kors did in the last year working with us. All right, so next brand. So Beats has been working with us for as long as I've been involved with China Connect, 3 years. This man, some of you may recognize, some of you may not. This is Chris Wu, again, one of the top celebrities in China. And what I am able to claim, again, this is proven by multiple data sources, is that in their category, Beats has been #1 sales in terms of revenue for Singles Day for at least 2 years in a row. I didn't check on the on 3 years back, but we could have had that as well. But anyway, for the past year, this is the basic sort of investment pattern that Beats took. A huge wave early on in CNY, followed by 3 more waves in August, September, and November. So I think last year when I came, the CNY campaign had just launched, so I actually showed the full video clip of what that was. But essentially it was a micro movie running 5 minutes long, featuring Li Do and also some other sort of post 90s Chinese millennials and their experiences during CNY. So again, I showed it last year, so I'm not going to show the whole thing this year, but just to give you an idea of what it looks like and the production value that I had. And then came a collaboration project with Line Friends. So Line Friends and Beats worked together to create 10,000 limited edition headsets for China. And the objective then was to acquire, again, Beats customers through this special set of products and see how quickly we could sell it out. So first, we worked with some KOLs, and then you'll see a pattern here. Again, it's a KOL takeover, except this time, you know, you think you're reading an article, and Brown, the bear from Line Friends, pops up. This was then followed on by, because Brown is like this cool kind of like DJ character, right? So we thought, you know, it'd be cool if Brown could turn any room into like a disco, right? So this is you using the AR HTML5 to place Brown in a certain place. Once you say, all right, this is where I want him to be, then boom, he turns it into disco, and then he comes back and, you know, kind of shows you how to boogie. So anyway, just kind of a fun little thing to get consumers engaged. And through these very simple tactics, we were able to ship, I could proudly say, 10,000 units, so all the units in one day. So yeah, that was quite a success in terms of building up a even stronger customer base for Beats. So then came a global campaign called Above the Noise. Simply put, Above the Noise was run to support the launch of a new headset that has noise cancellation capabilities. And I will show you a short clip from the global launch video. Sorry, it's a bit dark on the screen, but it's got a whole bunch of people in it. So that's Neymar, shot here in Paris. And you have Serena Williams with her baby. That's Chris Wu again, so that's gonna be an important thing. But yeah, Chris basically only appears in this global video for about 20 seconds or so. All right. So again, this was run around the September-October timeframe. Got a very cool feel with all these different global celebrities. Then came Singles Day, and we did the big reveal. So the 20 seconds of Chris Wu that you saw was really just the tip of the iceberg. Right before Singles Day, Beats announced that Chris Wu, besides being the global spokesperson for Burberry, is also now the global spokesperson for Beats. So I don't know. I'm actually willing to play a game with you guys during lunch where we could place bets on how many global spokespersons can Chris Wu pick up in the next year, and then next China Connect we can come back and see who wins. So. But yeah, this is the full launch video of Chris Wu becoming global spokesperson. Basically talking about how noisy the city is and how the noises actually affect his creativity. But hey, that's okay because I got these noise canceling Beats headsets that help me protect my creativity. There you go.
Tell me the truth, what else I gotta do? Don't wanna be staying in the shadow, rear mirror view. 是我们想看的、想做的、想说的，在乎我想要的、想做的、想得到的，活着就是为了看看天有多高。'Cause we got the sauce and we started from the bottom.
All right, so basically the pattern of the campaign structures looks something like this. Mostly branding with a very product-driven Line Friends campaign. Right there in the middle. Okay, so putting it all together, and I have 5 minutes to talk about this. I call it the China Market Share Framework. So I know that the theme here is talking about how China is the new global inspiration, and I think even though this is a very China-specific framework, if you want to take it elsewhere, you just have to make a couple of adjustments in terms of timing, and it probably still works in any other market in the world. Well, okay, this only works in China. So it is my firm belief that your WeChat public account, regardless of a service account or a subscription account, is now more important than your website in terms of your branding in China. And we actually eat our own dog food. So for our clients, you can look, I mean, we treat each article as if we're building a brand new mini site. So it is not to be taken lightly what you deliver on the WeChat platform, because when people become interested in your brand, this is the place they go to see exactly what you're all about. If you're just treating it like any other channel and just kind of pushing out plain vanilla messages out there, you're doing yourself a huge disservice instead of brand, in terms of branding. So anyway, this is just to kind of give you a baseline of, you know, the least that you need to do on the WeChat platform. Then I'm gonna do a very rough regression analysis of the 3 brands I'm talking about and their spending patterns. And you could see that it's actually quite obvious. I mean, if you're trying to capture market share, if you're trying to win on Singles Day, which is now undeniably the most important shopping day in China, so then you need to heavy up on Q4, right? But when I say Q4, I mean September, October, November, and it does not include December. The other thing I want to look at is the pattern of campaign structures. So if you look at the 3 brands, the only thing that they have in common is that the 4th brand, or the campaign that really drives Singles Day, are all branding campaigns. And why is that? It's actually because most of the brands think they need to run promotional product-driven campaigns before Singles Day. But you know, everybody is doing that. There's way too much noise in the marketplace telling you how cheap this is versus that. And I mean, that does not deliver any emotional value. So to be successful, you actually need to step back and say, all right, look, as a brand, we are actually much more believable by consumers to give them what they really want. But you don't do that with product-driven messages. You do that through emotionally driven branding messages. So if you guys want to kind of get your phones out, then basically this is the summary. WeChat is the most important part of your branding. Your marketing calendar starts in December and ends on Singles Day. So right after Singles Day on November 12th, that's what I call the Singles Day hangover. And basically, nobody really wants to do anything for 3 weeks in China because we're all so tired from Singles Day. So you could also mark out that black spot on your calendar to kind of take a vacation. It's a pretty good time for it. All right, and then reserve most of your budget for what I call Q4, but that's really September, October, November. Your biggest spend should be on that November campaign, and it should be a big branding campaign. And finally, to do all this stuff, it doesn't have to be us, but you know, hire a good creative agency. Otherwise, yeah, it really doesn't matter. And having said that, now that you have your phones out anyway, you could also scan my QR code so you could hire me as your creative agency. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much.
I got 90 seconds for questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do. I was just going to say, we've got a little bit of time left. Do we have any questions for Pete? I'm sure. Oh, here's one. Great.
Yeah, so we know when it comes to social media in China, KOLs are very important. But especially for luxury brands, we see that everybody is doing exactly the same thing. Yep. Because we are all working with a KOL in our social accounts. So my question, I have 2 questions. What's coming next after KOLs for social? And the second question is how a luxury brand today can play differently on social media in China? Because we are all doing the same thing, working with KOLs. The difference is in terms of execution when it comes to creative, but then we are...
Okay. Well, I think this answer is going to take up the entire Q&A time. It's quite complicated, actually.
great question, though.
Yeah, it is a great question. So first of all, yeah, everybody knows that, hey, you got to use KOLs. And I think the small secret right now is that about 70-80% of the brands still treat KOLs like channels. So it's like, yeah, I'm just going to give them some product pictures. They're going to post it through their channels, and bada boom, bada bing, I did a KOL campaign. That doesn't make you a genius. It just makes you a very junior media planner. So I think at least in right this minute, how you work with KOLs is that you co-create with them. So instead of just saying, hey, post these product pictures, actually have something to do with them so that you create some tangible asset that the consumer can then latch onto. Example off the top of my head, for Acer, we brought together 2 independent musicians and then had them write a song, right? And they wrote the song using Acer computers, and then the whole thing became a story. So that to me is actually much more of an interesting way to engage with KOLs versus just saying, all right, hey, you're an independent musician, you have a large audience, so here's a computer, take some pictures with it, right? So that's today's world, but people are catching on to that already as well. So what's next? And I think what I'm about to say, this is for the China market only, all right? Might be shocking for some of you. I think the next battleground is in paid social. And so this is with things like your WeChat Moments ads and your promoted posts on Weibo. Why I say that is because if you look at Facebook and how that works, if you guys ever run Facebook campaigns, do you really care about Facebook KOLs that much? You don't. And why don't you? Is because, well, we got this algorithm in place, so even if the KOL claims that they have 1 million fans, the exposure is going to be very tiny anyway, organically, unless we boost it, right? So Facebook essentially has tweaked their system so that you don't really want to give the KOL money. You want to give Facebook money to get exposure, right? And so China's headed that way as well. I think more and more, we're going to be heading towards paying WeChat a lot more money to get our stuff into the Moment stream. And now it comes back to my final point there. It's like, well, exactly what is going to go in that Moment stream? Don't treat it like a channel. Then it needs to be something creative where when people see it, they're not annoyed. They don't just pass by it, but they're going to say, oh, that looks pretty damn cool. I want to click on it and see what it's about, right?